Welcome to the Startup Bootcamp powered by AMTD Digital at Entrepreneur Day 2020. This session will be conducted in English without simultaneous interpretation services. Let's welcome our MC today, Mr. Jame DiBiasio, founder and editor of DigFin Group. Jame, the stage is yours.
Great. Thank you and welcome to the Startup Bootcamp, part of the Hong Kong Trade Development Council Entrepreneur Day. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Jame DiBiasio. I run my own business. It's a media business called DigFin, digfingroup.com, which is all about FinTech and digital finance. So if you're interested in that space, you can find all kinds of free resources there at www.digfingroup.com. But we are here today to talk about building startups, building ecosystems, creating new opportunities. It's a tough time for everyone. COVID-19 is ravaging all kinds of industries. It seems really confusing. It's kind of hard to know what to do. But this is a great time for creative people to be building new things, because the world is going to look different when we come out of this, and it's going to be led, hopefully, by bright people here in Hong Kong and around the world using their creative energies to create new businesses. But creating a business, doing a startup is hard. Doing good things is always hard. You need help, and that's why we're here. So Amt Digital is a Hong Kong-based but regional and global financial services company. They have a lot of resources, and they're going to tell you a little bit about what they're doing in this space for startups, not just in FinTech, but across the entire scope of what startups in technology can deliver. So with that, I'm very excited to welcome you here today, and you're going to learn a lot. To get us started, I'm going to introduce to you Michelle Lee. She is the co-CEO of AMTD Digital. I'm going to leave it to Michelle to explain what is Amt Digital and how they're helping startups in Hong Kong and around Asia build the next generation of great companies. So Michelle, please join us. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Michelle Lee. I'm the co-CEO of AMTD Digital. For those of you who participated in the HKTDC Startup Express, AMTD is a strategic partner of that event, and I was part of it. I was a judge of the Startup Express. So good to see you again. But back to the Startup Express, we were now able to give you a full picture of who AMTD is and how we can help. So we understand right now the situation is difficult for the startups. AMTD is here to help. And let me give you some introduction of who AMTD is. This is the group chart of AMTD Group. It's all about an idea. So the AMTD Group, the business started as a regional investment bank. The entity is called AMTD International. It is a listed company on New York Exchange, also dual listed on Singapore Exchange with market cap over $2 billion US. It is the largest independent investment bank in Asia, so with a lot of experience in investment banking, corporate banking, asset management. So that's the oldest business line of AMTD Group. Then after that comes AMTD Digital, the company I am heading. So Amt Digital is trying to build a one-stop cross-market fintech platform in the region for Asian consumers and SMEs. So under AMTD Digital, I'm going to share a little bit more later. So we have all the various digital financial licenses across Asia. We also have the digital marketing, data intelligence, and we also have the digital connectors and investments. Then after D, we have the AMTD Education, where we build the best schools in Asia. After that, we have MTD Assets. We invest actively in the real estate space as asset holder. We have real estate portfolios in Hong Kong and Singapore. So that's about MTD Group. So in MTD Group, the essence is something called MTD SpiderNet ecosystem. So that's where we really want to help empower the startup space. So remember, AMTD Group's business started in investment banking. So throughout the way, along the way, we have built relationships with companies and partners across different sectors. So for example, we have worked with companies in technology space, for example, Xiaomi, Meituan, Maoyan, etc. We also worked with traditional financial institutions like all the regional banks in China and across Asia. So also we worked with some traditional business such as real estate here in Asia and also educational institutions. So with those trust from those partners and clients, we are able to build a powerful ecosystem where the partners are able to collaborate and obtain inspirations from each other. So AMTD are facilitating the synergies among different ecosystem partners across different sectors. But at the core, we realize we have created something really powerful. That's AMTD Digital. So remember, I mentioned there are 4 segments under AMTD Digital. So the number one vertical is the digital financial services, where we have the various digital financial licenses. The second line is the digital marketing and data intelligence, where we give all the clients the access to AMTD SpiderNet ecosystem, and we also empower our data intelligence research capabilities to those clients. On the digital connectors and ecosystem verticals, we built one of the best educational and training programs for startup founders across Asia. And finally, the digital investments. We have a very promising technology company as a portfolio. For example, Eday Cook, Appear, the Weight Doctor. So AMTD Digital basically encompassing the best digital offerings across this ecosystem and offering the one-stop digital experience to our clients. So that's about AMTD SpiderNet ecosystem. So it's a powerful network connecting all the best resources. So for startup, if you join this network, you are able to enjoy the trust, the credibility, the innovation on this network and accelerate your growth with those resources. So the most important vertical under AMTD Digital is the digital financial licenses. So right now we have the Airstar Bank, which is one of the 8 digital virtual banks in Hong Kong. And it's the second one that opened, fully launched to the public here in Hong Kong. So I think this is, if you haven't had an account with Airstar, I highly recommend you to open it. It's just 5 minutes purely online. And right now we're trying to avoid contact. This is the bank for you to avoid, to really do that contactless online banking. Secondly, we are applying for a digital banking license in Singapore. So with that license in Singapore, we are able to connect the bank offerings across different markets here in Hong Kong and Southeast Asia. In Singapore, we have a few other 3 license holders. For example, PolicyPal, which is a purely online insurance broker in Singapore. And we have Cabridge, which is a digital asset exchange, a private market platform in Singapore. Also, we have FormalPay, a digital payment leader in Southeast Asia. Then finally, we have AMTD Risk Solutions, which is one of the largest local corporate insurance broker here in Hong Kong. You see, this is a very powerful collection of digital financial licenses across Greater Bay here and Southeast Asia. The vision is really build that one-stop cross-market digital financial platform across Asia. So with this powerful licenses, this is our vision. We're going to build that one-stop experience. At the core, it is the banking services, like a banking account, transaction banking, cash management. Around that, we have the insurance, brokerage, asset exchange, payments around that. So with our own proprietary offering, we are going to add onto that the offerings from ecosystem partners, not just limit the services to banking only. We want to build that banking experience plus beyond banking offerings to really offer the one-stop end-to-end digital experience for our consumer and SME customers. So that's the vision. So with this vision, we really welcome promising innovative companies to add to these offerings to really complete that one-stop experience. So here's where, if you think you can add value, you are the missing piece to this picture, then please come forward and join us. Here, I'm going to share with you how we can help you to grow and accelerate that regional expansion. So if you're running your own startup, we understand how hard it is. For example, for the FinTech or digital financial service verticals, right now the licenses are quite fragmented, right? So different verticals, you are regulated by different regulators, and also in different countries, you have different regulators. For AMTD, we are able to hold that multiple licenses across different countries. If you have that one-stop platform, it's pretty powerful for any single customers. So our solution for that fragmented FinTech licenses, we are going to have all of it across different markets. Secondly, FinTechs or any startups, it's very hard for you. After you onboard the customers, you are trying to offer as much solutions as possible to improve that customer stickiness and your understanding of the customer. So you don't want to limit your offerings to your own. You want to add your ecosystem partners offering onto that, but with yourself, it's difficult to convince partners to get on board. So our AMTD Digital solution or the ecosystem solution is that we are going to bring our AMTD SpiderNet ecosystem solution together with your solution. So together, we are able to offer a comprehensive digital solutions to your customer. And with that powerful, complete set of offering, we are able to have multiple consumption themes and data sources to improve the understanding of the customer. So in that sense, you're able to further improve your customer stickiness because you understand their needs and you are able to proactive offerings to their problems. And also, after you reach that growth stage, or even when you across different stages of your development, you will need funding at every single stages. So with AMTD International's capital market connectivity and experience, we are able to help you connect with global capital markets to solve that funding needs. So in that sense, we have the solution for each of your problems. We make sure after you join the ecosystem will continue to grow and has its own life. So that's about the problem of startups and how AMTD ecosystem is going to help you. So with that strategy in mind, this year we have announced a number of new members to the ecosystem. We have announced 3 acquisitions in Southeast Asia. Those 3 companies, PolicyPal, Cabridge, and Formal, they joined the ecosystem through a program we called MTD Fusion In Strategy, where we swap shares with those companies, and we take over the controlling stake in them. We really want to empower those startups with our ecosystem resources and our credibility in front of their customers and also in front of the regulators. The 3 of them, each of them hold a different type of digital financial licenses, so that would complete our one-stop platform story. So we welcome you to join us through this Fusion In strategy, where we can really help you to achieve that scale and accelerate your growth and expand outside of your own region faster. So Fusion, okay. For AMTD, it's not just about building our own offerings. We care about the community. We want the community to grow, and we also want to help the talents to grow. So this year, we announced quite a number of strategic cooperations with different associations and companies. For example, we announced a strategic partnership with Singapore FinTech Association, where we are going to exchange resources and help Singapore's FinTech companies to go outside of Southeast Asia. Also, together we announced AMTD SFA Global FinTech Fellowship Program, where we are going to grow the FinTech entrepreneurs through a 5-year program, and we are going to assign mentors to each of them to really help them to solve problems and to accelerate their growth. Also, we have worked with FN. FN is a Apex platform really to help the FinTech companies to facilitate the communication between FinTech companies and the financial institutions to accelerate the prototype process. So it's an platform established by Monetary Authority of Singapore, and AMTD is a founding corporate member of this platform. And also, we announced a strategic collaboration with Global Linka, where we're going to work with Global Linka. It's sort of a LinkedIn for global SMEs. So we're going to explore digitalization solutions for SME customers on Global Linka's platform. To help the FinTech startups to really pull through this difficult time, we have announced a number of solidarity schemes to help the FinTech startups. For example, together with Monetary Authority of Singapore and SFA, we now launched a solidarity grant. So with 6 million Singapore dollars. So the business sustenance grant has already been delivered to 200 FinTech startups in Singapore. The business growth grant is still open for application. So if you are interested, if you are based in South Asia, please go apply for this grant. On the side, we also have an investment scheme under AMTD ASEAN Solidarity Fund. It's still open for application. If you're interested, please go check that out as well. Here's an introduction of FA. I'm not going to go into details, but if you are a FinTech company and you want to accelerate your POC with financial institutions, please go register and upload your API on this platform. It will help you accelerate that progress. So here are a few photos from our past events, FinTech events. We are the strategic partner of Hong Kong FinTech Week, Singapore FinTech Festival, we announced quite a few leadership program, fellowship program. So if you're interested, please do apply for those programs. Each year, we also bring the entrepreneurs into Davos and a lot of other global events where we help the entrepreneurs to connect with the global entrepreneur communities to really broaden their perspective and connect to business opportunities globally. So what we're really trying to say is that if you're a startup, it's hard to grow on your own. You need an ecosystem builder to help you to build that credibility, to connect you with capital markets, and really connect you with partners around the world to accelerate your growth. So AMTD is here to help. So if you're interested, please come forward and connect with us. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Michelle. And thank you for sharing that. That's very interesting because there's many financial institutions that are trying to onboard fintechs, but it often doesn't work because they're legacy heritage institutions. Amt Digital is being built from the ground up and is being built specifically to work with fintechs and help them grow. But what do you do if you are trying to get your start? It's not so easy if you don't have already a business plan, a model, resources going for you. Maybe you're a student, or perhaps you're coming from your old career and you're trying to get a new start in the digital technology space. With us to help talk a little bit about this and how learning is also contributing to the development of startups in Hong Kong, I'd like to introduce Professor Wilson Tong. Dr. Tong is director of the AMTD FinTech Center at PolyU from the Business Faculty School. So please, Dr. Tong, please come up and give us your thoughts on how you're nurturing the next generation of entrepreneurs. Thank you,
James. Thanks. Hi, everybody. I'm Wilson Tong, the director of AMTD FinTech Center of PolyU Faculty of Business. Hong Kong is moving very fast and aggressively in developing the fintech ecosystem. And for this, needless to say, fintech talent is the most important factor. So because of this, I think the education sector definitely has a role to play in contributing this. So in the coming 10 to 15 minutes, I try to introduce as an example that how education sector work with the business sector and can contribute to the development of the fintech ecosystem in building up the fintech talent group. To give you a background information, fintech talent shortage is a global phenomenon, and Hong Kong is no exception. According to a recent survey report, Hong Kong's fintech ecosystem is expected to grow significantly over the next 3 years. And yet, due to the survey on the fintech companies, 95% of them say that they are in fact facing a major shortage of fintech talents. So that is a key issue. And actually, how to solve this problem? There is another academic study by a Canadian university about fintech talent shortage, how to solve this problem. A main theme, so they suggest a few themes, but one major one identified in overcoming the global skills shortage is educational interventions. Make sure that the education intervention is not just saying the education sector. The key thing is the fintech business circle should embrace collaboration with the education institutes to pave the way to develop these fintech talents. So as I said, AMTD FinTech Center, PolyU Faculty of Business, probably you can view it as a startup, but also as a good example how a tertiary institute in Hong Kong and the business company work together, join hand in hand, and contribute in a meaningful way to Hong Kong FinTech Talent Group. And actually, 3 years ago, Hong Kong PolyU Faculty of Business thought about establishing a FinTech center. And gratefully, with big support from AMTD, now it's major player in Hong Kong FinTech circle, plan to support greatly to our initiative, and hence the plan materialized into this AMTD FinTech Center of PolyU Faculty of Business, which was officially inaugurated in April 2018. And the photo here is the senior management group of both the AMTD group as well as PolyU senior management. And the center's major objectives include education training. That is the major part. But other than that, we also try to bridge the FinTech experts between Hong Kong and mainland China and overseas as well. And then we also do some consultancy work, and I'll briefly give some examples. Now, the major part, as said, is to build up the FinTech talents in Hong Kong. Now, needless to say, actually many universities in Hong Kong actually contribute to this. But why we want to do this, we introduced a so-called Doctor of FinTech program. So it is, I would say, the first one in town, and probably in the world too. It's a part-time program. Why we want to do this? As said, actually many education institutes introduce FinTech diploma courses, bachelor programs, master programs on the FinTech. But typically they focus on the technical side, all right? But our focus here actually is not so much as a technical side of the tech, the FinTech, but rather we emphasize to expose the importance of this so-called digital transformation era to the business world. Think about this. In Hong Kong, most of the companies are SMEs, and we hope that SMEs, senior managements, and the entrepreneurs will try to appreciate to the importance of this digital era. And by throwing this program, they begin to appreciate and bring the perspective into their company to see how to do the transformation. So that is our focus of the Doctor of FinTech program. It is a 3-year part-time program with some technical subjects like big data, analytics, blockchain, AI, and smart cities. But on top of that, we put more of a digital business perspective in the program. We already started this in this January, and we are recruiting new students from the second cohort. So that is the part. And other than that, we also do a specific type of training, and we signed an MOU with blockchain Center for Blockchain Technology of University College of London, called CBT UCL, to prepare launching a 2-day blockchain executive education. And through this, that we want to build a specific training program in Hong Kong. Other than this education training, we actively participate in the Hong Kong FinTech Circle. So every year we routinely involve in Hong Kong FinTech Week by having a FinTech Day. And this one is an example, the photos on campus. And we invite people from Invest Hong Kong, FinTech Association Hong Kong, and so on and so forth to participate here. Now that is the major objective of Center, but as said, we also want to bridge with China. And last year, our Center signed an MOU for a strategic cooperation with Guangzhou Venture Capital Institute and Guangzhou Technology and Finance Comprehensive Service Center, and then with a FinTech forum. On that day, they signed an MOU and start building a collaboration of the Guangzhou FinTech players and try to work together and to have meaningful FinTech projects. And last one, we talk about consultancy, and I'm pleased to have this opportunity because this event is a Hong Kong TDC event, and we actually have done last year a consultancy report for Hong Kong TDC was the initiative of Dr. Josh Lam, who is the chairman of Hong Kong Cyberport and the convener of the Digital Zero Working Group of the Hong Kong DDC Belt and Road Committee. And the consultancy report, as the title says, is Hong Kong, the Digital Zero Super Hub. Many of us know the Belt and Road Initiative, but not all of us appreciate the importance of another initiative called Digital Zero that actually was suggested by China in 2015. And it's essentially the internet version of the Belt and Road. And this consultancy report focused on what roles Hong Kong could play in this Digital Zero. And that is our report. For those who are interested in actually go to the TDC website and you will see this. And the bottom line of this consultancy report is suggests that the Hong Kong can play different important roles in this Digital Zero initiative. For instance, we suggest that Hong Kong can play as Digital Zero data center. And then based on this, and we can have a center on being a digital international financial center, an arbitration center on the Digital Zero, zero type business. And finally, we can develop through the FinTech area and then go through another stage of building Hong Kong as a smart port, smart economy, and eventually a smart city. So that is our main proposal in our consultancy project. And that is essentially some examples of our FinTech center, the way to contribute in a small way to development of Hong Kong digital ecosystem. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much, Dr. Tong, for introducing that. And obviously, there's lots of ways that people can get access to learning, to support, and help to get into the startup game. Now we're going to talk about the virtual bank. Michelle mentioned that the virtual bank is the core to what AMTD Digital is doing in Singapore and around the region. So we're delighted to have with us Dr. Frederic Lau, who is, in fact, the CEO of this new virtual bank, Airstar, based here in Hong Kong. I feel like if it's a bank, I should, get get my suit and tie on here. But But here he is, Dr. Frederic Lau, looking very much like the banker,
Airstar Bank.
the banker of 2020. So, Fred, thank you for joining us, and over to you. Tell us all about Airstar.
Thanks. Now, the organizer asked me to talk about building a virtual bank from scratch. Now, from scratch, that means starting from day zero instead of day one, right? Now, I still can remember about 2 years ago, April 2 years ago, and AMTD and Xiaomi met in Beijing. That was the first time we met in Beijing, and we kind of discussed a lot of other issues. One of the issues being whether we should apply the virtual banking license in Hong Kong, and then we decided to apply. And very soon, I guess our actions are very fast. And at the end of April, and I remember a group of AMTD people flew to Beijing. I think it was a Sunday. And then we locked ourselves up with Xiaomi's people, locked in a room. And the room is called Hong Qi Gong, Hong Chat Gong. There was Xiaomi is funny. And their conference rooms, and all named by the 金庸武俠小說. It was a kung fu novel's character's name. And the conference room we are working at is called Hong Chat Gong Conference Room. So we lock ourselves up for 4 consecutive days. And we work for the initial submission to the HKMA, the application form. So we work for 4 consecutive days, and then that week's Friday, and we managed to submit our application to the HKMA. And now, 4 full days, I don't know whether this is a record, but if not a record, it's very close to a record. And we only, and the whole stack of paper, and we only spent 4 days and then put together the application and then submit it to the HKMA. And then that is day 0. And we started the application process, and then by August 15, we submitted the final application document to the HKMA. And that was the application process. And then the HKMA, the regulator, and asked a lot of follow-up questions, and then back and forth, I guess. And then there was rounds of phasing out of certain applicants, and then we were lucky. By the end, we're still there, and we were the 3rd group to be announced by the HKMA for the license on May the 9th, 2019. And there was last year, May the 9th. So, we started to build our digital bank on that day on. So now, I summarized the whole thing. I guess we have achieved some very good achievements. And for example, and we were the last group of virtual banks to be granted the license. But we managed to rush forward to be the 2nd virtual bank to publicly launch our business in June the 11th. And I guess if we started the hiring process, because we hire people from the day we received the license, if we started to hire people a little bit earlier on, and our implementation process may be quicker. Now, I summarize the entire preparation for the launch and implementation work. And there are 3 pillars, and we think it's pretty, I guess we rely on. Number 1 is people, the people issue. And we believe we must hire the best people in town. And we did hire the best people in town. And those people basically mostly are with banking background. And all our C-level officers are with very strong banking background. And they understand the banking practices and also the regulatory requirements. And that makes things very, I guess, positively, because virtual bank, even though a lot of things we rely on FinTech, we rely on technology to build the organization. And however, ultimately, we are still building a bank. Therefore, the banking background is very important. So our C-level people is very strong in banking background. Now, also, we have a very stable workforce. Our turnover rate probably is among the lowest within the virtual banking industry. So that's very important. You must have a very stable workforce and to have things move smoothly. And second, systems. And virtual bank, we have to rely on systems to help us to make the operation smoothly. And a lot of the things are because we are not, we do not have branches, we do not have face-to-face type of services to our customers. And therefore, systems is very important. And we chose whatever we think that's the best system for us to build. And not the most famous, not the most expensive one. So the implementation process, coupled with our C-level people, our IT people, and they are very strong in implementation skills, and they are very strong in project management skills. And therefore, our implementation process is very smooth. Now, I have to add on to that is, Xiaomi's IT team did help us a lot. They provide us a lot of help in the research and development field of it. And so the two shareholders combined, and I think they provide the management team with a very strong support. And that's the system implementation side of it. The third pillar, as far as I'm concerned, is the risk management and policy and procedures. And as I just said, because we are building a bank, A bank is a regulated entity. And that's why the regulations and policy and procedures, risk management is very important. Our C-level officers and our staff, and they all understand risk management is not just regulatory requirements. It is bread and butter of our banking business. And therefore, when we drafted our policy and procedures, and we put our policy and procedures in a much more conservative way. And that makes things very, I guess, acceptable by the regulators. And those are what I think the three pillars supported our implementation and preparation work. And we managed to spend about 13 months from the time we received the license to our retail banking public launch, 13 months. And that is, to me, that's quite satisfactory to me. And those are the positive things. Now, I guess coming up, we have a panel discussion, and we will discuss certain pain points and what kind of pain points virtual banking industry has. And I can just name a few, and then during the panel discussion, we might have a more detailed discussion during that time. And the pain points, now I can name one, which is the data. Now, virtual banking, we need data. If we don't have data, we cannot perform any type of AI studying. We cannot perform any big data calculation, that kind of analysis. So data is very important. However, and we are a startup, we don't have data yet. And we have to get, now, Xiaomi has a lot of data, but Xiaomi's data cannot just give it to us because we need customers' consent for us to use those data. And that is according by regulations, according by law. And something I guess we have to deal with is how to collect our own data for us to use. That's one of the pain points we are facing. And another pain point is, and PwC last year did a survey, and they found out that in Hong Kong, about 38% of the people do not trust virtual banking. And that's another pain point we are dealing with. And that's not just in Hong Kong, and in Singapore and Malaysia, and similar type of percentage of people, they do not trust internet banking or digital banking. That is something I think both the industry and the government has to deal with that issue. And well, I can stop here. And Jame, back to you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Fred, for taking us through that history. And I think it's really interesting the point you made about how even though the virtual bank is at the core of ecosystems that are being developed, they need data. And I think this is where the partners play such an important role, because the more startups that they have in their network contributing to building something together, that creates far more data points going forward and creates a much better experience for the customers as well as for the people working in these places. So the next step is we're now going to hear from actual startups, because you've been hearing from AMTD Digital, you've been hearing from Airstar, you've been hearing from PolyU. But what about the actual companies that are part of this? You probably want to get those experiences. Before I introduce them, we are going to take a short 1-minute break. We have to reset the stage here. So just hang on, and then we will bring you several of the startups working in this growing ecosystem. So we'll be right back. Welcome back. Thank you for that short break. We've now got our panel of startups here to talk to you. Leading this discussion will be William Fung. William is the Group Vice President at AMTD Group, and he is also co-CEO of Amt Digital. So this is William. So I'm going to leave you in his good hands. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. Good afternoon, everybody. Again, my name is William. Thanks for having us today. Right here on the stage, we have Dr. Frederic Lau, whom you guys have just met, CEO of Airstar Bank. And then in the middle, the very lovely Angie Lin. We used to be ex-colleague at AMTD.
Yes.
Now Angie is a senior management at Assured Asset Management. And then later on, Angie can explain a little bit and introduce a little bit about Assured. And then on the line, we have Chen, who is executive of Emq. So thank you very much for everybody for joining us. You've heard about AMTD Group, AMTD Digital from our colleagues Michelle, and you just heard about Airstar Bank from Fred. We wanted to use this opportunity to really talk about a couple of things. Number one, how COVID, which is affecting everybody's day-to-day life, how people live their life, how people do their business, how people run the business. So we can spend a little bit of time talking about that. And also more important is startups, how startups are getting guidance and support from the overall financial services sector, as well as how the AMTD ecosystem, what we call the spider net, are really empowering these startups. And hopefully for people on the line who is watching, who is listening, can have some takeaway from that. And then we can see whether how AMTD and also our colleagues here can guide you through your startup process and also potentially working together. So without further ado, why don't I invite Angie to spend a few minutes introducing Assured Asset Management and just talk about what kind of product and services that you guys do.
Okay, sure. Thanks for having me over here, and it's really nice to catch up with my old colleagues as always. So Assured Asset Management is actually asset management companies, but not doing the traditional, but more devoted to provide the platforms where we can connect and streamline, to provide a streamlined platforms to connect alternative, the whole ecosystem from the asset originator to the asset managers, and of course the asset owner. So we are trying to make the investment of alternative more easier, and then actually to be able to control and manage the risk more properly, actually.
Okay, great. And can you also talk about, I think Assured has had 3 years?
Yes.
3 years?
Yeah.
Since it became a startup and now a very successful global asset managers. Can you just talk through a little bit about the startup process, what are some of the challenges, and obviously there must be pros and cons of doing a
Right.
startup, and just share some of the experience with the audience.
Sure. I would have to say Hong Kong is actually a very special environment for people to conduct so-called financial services. So as a team, we all work in the financial service industry for a very long time. So you can say in the market like Hong Kong, if you're doing finance, you can actually find a lot of support. But at the same time, when you're trying to actually create something more innovation, it seems like you can see the innovation seems to be created around Hong Kong, but not really from Hong Kong originally. I think mainly it's because the financial industry over here is very dominated. That's one thing. Second thing is very successful. So to be able to jump from a very successful financial institutions to start a startup, I think at the very beginning would be credibility. So in order to provide financial service, you really need to have certain kind of branding, and you need to be trusted, because overall finance is actually a trusting and people business. So I think that would be one of the biggest hurdle to actually go through. How do you provide a financial service to people over here, to your clients, to be able to gain that credibility while you are from a startup kind of point of view? So I think that's the first hurdle. And while you start gradually to overcome that hurdle, then you will actually run into the second hurdle, which is actually the capital. For you to be able to provide a more, you can say, significant service to people, having a certain kind of backup in the capital side would be quite necessary for you to be able to be successful from this market. So I think that's the second hurdle. So I would have to say those two things, branding and probably to have adequate capital to fulfill the regulatory requirement to gain the credibility from the market, and also to be able to make this business sustainable, would be two major things to be able to overcome as a startup, to move into the second level as a more well-established asset management business. Yeah.
Thank you. And I'm sure a lot of the people listening can share some of the views and also some of the challenges that Angie just talked about as well. So turning to Timothy Chen, board directors of Emq, which is the leading tech-enabled global settlement solutions. Tim, if you don't mind just introducing Emq to the audience, talk about what kind of products and services that you guys do, and also what are the pain points that Emq is trying to address, especially for startups.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me. So let me give you a brief of what Emq does and some of the pain points. So Emq is building cross-border settlement infrastructure, primarily starting from Asia. So what we're doing is we're building the underlying pipes that terminate cross-border payments and remittances. So in Hong Kong specifically, we're the remittance API for WeChat and Alipay. So if there's cross-border movement of money from Hong Kong and Alipay digital wallets. So we describe our business as a hub and spoke business, where we enter countries like Indonesia, provide payout to multiple endpoints beyond these account payouts, or let's say Visa Direct. And we're literally a one turnkey API integration, and we handle cash management, treasury, AML, final payout on behalf of our clients at the time, and we pay out to 50 countries for B2B on state-of settlement. The two pain factors, I'm surprised, they echo exactly what Angie said. One is, how do you gain trust from financial institutions and people from day one? And that trust takes time from two areas. One is compliance and regulatory, and the other one is from being a small startup. Why would a financial institution of a certain size work with us? Those are the two hurdles that I see. And then third is the working capital to run a remittance or settlement type infrastructure. So that's a brief. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Tim. I think the line was broken up a little bit, so hopefully people on the line are able to catch most of what Tim just shared with us. While I have you, Tim, we mentioned about COVID and how COVID is affecting all of us around the globe. How has COVID affected Emq in the positive side, or as well on the negative side? Any takeaways from that?
Well, The interesting thing is, first, we haven't had fact for starting in January. So since January to now, we've literally grown 10% month to month. Now, why is that? Because I think most of our payment partners were primarily digital partners to begin with. And since we're in the business of remittances and cross-border settlement, people moved from traditional brick and mortar players like a Western Union and moved toward a digital platform such as ourselves. So that has allowed us to be a benefactor of COVID for us. So in fact, it has been beneficial for us in this regards.
Okay, that's good to hear, despite it's obviously a very challenging time for all of us in the industry. So turning back to Fred, thanks for being here. I know you're very busy running Airstar Bank, which obviously it's the second digital bank to start full operations in Hong Kong. So I'm sure you must have a lot of stories to tell. But you mentioned a little bit about pain points for startups in the digital world. Can you elaborate a little bit on that? Some of the startups, what are pain points they have in terms of banking services, and what kind of trends you're seeing that can help resolve some of these pain points?
Now, I just mentioned during my earlier speech that we got a lot of pain points, and one being a lot of people in this region, Hong Kong, Singapore, Malaysia, and they are not really fully trust virtual banking and digital banking. And they are more traditional. They want to go to a branch. They want to get their services face-to-face with some person. And that is something, I guess, we have to conquer. And I guess over time, if we gain our market shares, if we've been in this market for a longer time, and people will more and more accept virtual banking and digital banking. And I guess time will tell. And the other pain point is, I guess William mentioned servicing. Now, virtual bank, we don't have any branches. And even though without branches, it's a positive thing because we can save a lot of rental cost. And however, that will have an obstacle for us to directly deal with customers. And that is another pain point we are dealing with. And now, and also because virtual banking is new to the banking industry, and we are just like a lot of the startups, we are new, and we have to start from a small entity and grow to a bigger entity, to a bigger financial institution. Now, during the process from a small to medium size to a bigger size, that has to be a process. And during the process, and our services may not be as complete as the other traditional banks. And for the time being, all the virtual banks, and we can only provide some very basic services to our customers, and deposits, loans, remittance, that kind of things. And so far, none of us can provide wealth management services to our customers. And we're working on it. And however, you'll take time. You'll take time for us to build a system and hire people to do the work and to get the license. And all those things, you will take time. So at the very beginning, we are actually at the short end of it. And we don't have a lot of services to provide to the customers. And in addition to that, and our manpower is quite limited. And we have only a small, I guess many of us only have between 100 to 200 people for the time being. And unlike other well-established traditional banks, they have thousands of employees to serve their customers. So we will gradually improve our services, the quality of our services, and we'll gradually collect our data. And so we can provide, I guess, a more technology type of services to our customers.
Thank you, Fred. I guess with with the health situations and the COVID-19 situations, with people becoming more digitalized for whatever day-to-day things that they do, certainly this may not be a very bad time to really start having a digital banking accounts and doing a lot of banking services while sitting at home online using your mobile phones.
Yes, definitely. I wish we could we could launch our business publicly a little bit earlier, so we can catch from January to May period, and so we can get more customers to serve.
Understood. So Angie, so again, being a startup and in a very competitive industry, right, asset management, how do startup like Assured Asset Management compete with the more traditional and more established asset management, and what are the unique products or alternative products that Assured Asset Management can offer?
Right. So from day one, when we set up this business, we understand that we are actually in a very crowded market. So in order to set us difference, it's not a smart thing from day one. We are trying to become a new brand or newcomer to compete with a lot of well-establishment. In Hong Kong or Singapore, places like this, you do have a very big mega financial institutions. And then all those financial institutions got a very well-established asset management business. You also have very boutique or very niche asset managers in the market where they have been serving the market for a very long time in the asset class that they are very good at. So from day one, we set up this business, what we were thinking is, what is the area that we can address and then to be able to provide added value? With the development of technology, a lot of things that we don't think that's capable of being invested, that's what we call the alternative zone, right now become investable. And I think one of the most significant case for the past 10 years, or you can say 15 years, is actually consumer credit. So the consumer credit running from the US all the way to China, the way that people do loan and borrow money, when it become too platformized, it become a sort of investable target for people to invest. And the reason that it's popular is you do see the needs in the end of the capital, and the other end, we call that the origination of the asset, could be connected in the form of technology. So that's what we had the idea from day one. So in order to set us different, we decided we are not going to compete with other asset managers. On the other hand, we're becoming more like we are helping this asset manager to be able to connect with the origination of the asset. So for the asset that could be originated, or you never thought about you could be investing in that sort of format because you need to be standardized, we can help them to connect with all those, you can say, originate or new asset. And one of the significant examples that we'd like to use, other than consumer credit, is the supply chain finance. So supply chain finance in the old format, it could only become a banking activity. So you go to the bank as an SME, you borrow, and you use the invoice that you see as the verification or proof of the transaction, and the account payable to become a sort of collateral so that you can get working capitals from the bank. But in the asset management world, with the technology help, you could see a lot of companies, for example, Baba, like Alibaba, or JD, even Amazon, start to actually streamline their whole supply chain and making the SME working on that lines forever their invoice and their data to become something could be verified and digitalized for them to be able to borrow money either from the asset manager's point of view, the world, or from the banking world. So that's the kind of asset we call that traditionally is not, but right now with the help of tech, it could be created. So a lot of new assets could be created, and our tech is to help them to connect with those new assets. At the same time, to connect with the so-called investor, we call that asset owner, from institution all the way to the so-called wealth management people. So to shorten that is, we're never trying to be as a competitor with other asset managers. On the other hand, if you are in the alternative zone, we are trying to work with you as the partner, and we fill the gap for whatever financial product that's not there yet, or to be able to help the investor to be able to connect with the assets in the form of product, and that's what we do. Yeah.
Understood. And how has COVID affected you guys? Are you seeing, as Tim mentioned earlier, actually they saw an increase of business activities, right? 10 to 20%. Are you guys seeing that? Are you guys seeing more inflows? Just a few comments on that.
Yeah, I think the very beginning of the year, you can say the first half of this year, the market is quite silent because regardless, we are still in the investment world. But I have to say the flows or the activities start to pick up very strong so far from like May all the way over here. One is because maybe the needs of the tech become, from the good to have to become necessary. So in order for you to still continue certain kind of financial activity, you have to be able to move everything online. And then the needs to move everything online would actually boost anybody that originally already have the presence in that area already. And that's the same thing in the asset management world, actually. So very simple example, if you know how to onboard your clients completely in the digital format, then you do win compared with those people who need to do face-to-face. So we do see a lot of activity pick up from May and then all the way over here. So it was, to our surprise, June, July so far has been quite busy. But I have to say, when it first hit, it was a shock. So everybody was just kind of like quiet, waiting to see what's going on.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Tim, back to you. Are you seeing any opportunities for EMQ to collaborate more with other startups to expand on the service offerings, how you can work with these startups, how you can help these startups, especially on all these financial settlement solutions?
Oh, definitely. Thank you very much. So I think because of COVID-19, the solidarity among startups, a way to accelerate work with more digital wallets. We're working with a number of neobanks in the Southeast Asian region and money service operators. And with that, we've also successfully been building a pipeline with traditional banks where they're trying to divest away from traditional brick and mortar. So from that aspect, I think EMQ is one of the few startups that's a beneficiary of the COVID-19 pandemic. So yes.
Okay, thanks, Tim. Fred, as people know, Airstar is a joint establishment between AMTD and Xiaomi. What kind of roles do you think Airstar can play within the AMTD ecosystem, which obviously have quite a diverse set of industries, banks, insurance, corporates, even educational institutions and government bodies. So what sort of roles can Airstar play in that?
Now, Airstar Bank, I guess a digital bank as a whole, and we cannot just to attract customers like the old way, like a traditional bank's old way. And now for Airstar Bank, we designed to use the platform banking to build our customer base. And what is platform banking? And yes, we lined up with a partner, and the partner has its platform to serve their customers, and we'll utilize that platform and inject our banking business into the banking services into the platform. So that will benefit both Airstar Bank and our partner and the customers. So there's a win-win-win type of situation. Now, for example, if we lined up for example, PolyU, and which is an insurance concern. Now, they have their customers, they have their platform. And now, if we combine their services with our banking services, and both sides, our customers and PolyU's customers, and they both benefit, not just the insurance side of the services, also the banking side of the services. So that is the platform, we call the platform banking's advantage. So AMTD ecosystem, I guess that there are a lot of companies such as PolyU, and that we can utilize that platform, that kind of platforms, and to promote our services, banking services to those platform customers.
Sure. And I guess for Airstar, can also tap into some of the corporate connection and also retail connections that AMTD has locally in Hong Kong. For right now, obviously, as you mentioned, it's a simple banking services, deposits, simple loans. Over time, there could be other banking services that Airstar can do within the AMTD ecosystem. So
yes.
that definitely that's the intention of everybody.
Yeah.
And maybe a little bit more airtime for Airstar Bank. For people that are not familiar with some of the good deals and terms that Airstar is offering right now, maybe you can just spend a few minutes talking about some of the simple deposits or lending rates that Airstar is offering, so that people can have an idea. And for those that haven't opened an account, they should do so immediately, right?
Now, in general, I'll say in general, I'm not talking about one specific program or a specific product. Now, in general, Airstar Bank, because we don't have to pay rental cost, so we can save some money in the rental cost, and because we don't have branches, and we hire much less employees as compared with traditional banks. And we save some money in those two aspects. We can use our savings and return to the customers. That means we can offer a little bit higher deposit interest rate to our customers. And we can also offer a little bit lower lending rates to our borrowing customers. And as you can see, and if you check the rate table every day, I guess Airstar Bank is at the top 3 of the most favorable deposit interest rates. So we are actually offer a little bit higher interest rate and to all the customers. So we welcome all the customers, all the people, and check our rate sheet every day and see if there is any products, any deposit products you want to deposit into it. And in the longer term, now, we have another savings, which is, and we will use big data. We will use big data, we will use technology and to run our operation. That is another cost-saving aspect. And we will use big data to run our credit analysis. And that means our credit analysis will be more accurate. And that will reduce our credit cost. And that will also give us another way to return to our customers with a higher deposit rate and lower lending rates.
Okay, thank you. I guess similar question to Angie, right? Assured and AMTD have very close ties,
Yeah.
right? AMTD being one of the proud early incubators of Assured. How has Assured benefited from the AMTD ecosystem, and how has the ecosystem helped with the early development of Assured?
So I used to work in AMTD for a long time, and in the companies, I got exposed to a lot of people that's really professional in the financial industry, but at the same time, because the company was investing into FinTech and tech-related business that area, so I also had a chance to be exposed to working with this entrepreneur. And I think it's the combination of those things to actually blend it out Assured or the idea. And I was really happy that AMTD is willing to actually invest in that company as well, so that it could be a perfect combination. So in that environment, I think it itself created an ecosystem where you be able to, becoming an entrepreneur kind of club, where you share your experience, where which industry that you're from, experiencing different market, and you blend it out something where you yourself become a special kind of, you only experience that when you had the experience of doing that business and developing that market. And those experiences are very unique, and that's something that everybody could be able to exchange in this ecosystem. I think that's one thing. And the second thing is being in the alternative zones. A lot of people's in a lot of companies that within this AMTD ecosystem, including the deals that AMTD actually engaged, or the investment that AMTD was doing, a lot of time it could be categorized as alternative as well. So we're able to enjoy those kind of, deal flow exchange, and also to be able to create more liquidities for any sort of investment that's actually considered slightly illiquid due to basically people's point of view before. I think that's all the benefit that we enjoy in this AMTD SpiderNet ecosystem. And at the same time, because I do understand that we do have different, you can say, experiencing different, including Airstar, including MQ, and also a policy pail. It could actually cover a lot of different areas for the client's needs, the investor needs, because the investor won't come into one company doing one thing, but they do have the needs for a lot of different kind of experiences, a lot of different kind of services as well. So that's another aspect that we do see the value, being this ecosystem. Yeah.
Excellent. And now turning back to you, Tim, and hopefully the connection now is a little bit better than a few minutes ago. So how do you think EMQ can leverage, similar question,
Okay.
How can EMQ leverage on the AMTD ecosystem in order to thrive in the international payment network? And how do you see the opportunity arising from the increased connectivities between Greater China and ASEAN, and what role can EMQ play in that?
Well, let me answer the question in 3 segments. One is on a higher level, that I think EMQ can be a cross-border enablement for the SpiderNet ecosystem, working with regulated partners who need cross-settlement and termination. And since we're a neutral network and an API system, we don't compete with our clients. We are complementary to them. And because of that flexible network, our paying application can be anyone's paying application. So our model has always been in Chinese, the 岸三地, and then later, 南下政策 going around in 东南亚. So that has always been our model for business, and also something that we can leverage the AMT ecosystem on. But there's 2 major intangibles about AMTD I want to stress. One is Raymond has been in our board since the last couple of years, and he's been an intangible for us in being a sounding board member for us. So it's just not just a business thing, it's also someone who has the knowledge pool to give us advice of where to go forward. I can't stress that enough about AMTD. The second is about your CEO, Calvin. When he talks about SpiderNet, I think of Calvin as Spider-Man. And there's the whole model around Spider-Man saying with great power comes great responsibility. But what I like to tell people about AMTD and Calvin is that with great partners like AMTD comes great responsibility and great opportunities for us. So I really do want to thank Calvin and Raymond for being intangible support for a company like and startup like EMQ.
Thank you, Tim. I think we have time for one last question, and why don't we save it for the lady in the room here. So Tim talked about partnerships.
Yeah.
For Assured, what sort of partnership are you looking for within the AMTD SpiderNet, and what sort of collaboration do you think you can force with that partners?
We focus on alternatives. So alternatives in 3 different categories. One is private equity or direct investment. And the second one would be private credit, so on the credit zone. And the third one is more on the real estate, actually. So I think a lot of partnership would actually come from, I think, with AMTD is from probably the direct investments and the private credit side. Like what we say, a lot of people will come across the investment opportunities or the investment chances, but they did not realize that could be actually investable for or among a lot of different group of people, including the asset manager and the asset owner. And I think our expertise is trying to create that sort of connections and then trying to actually help people to manage the risk better and manage the liquidity better. So that's one area. And the other area would be because we also connect with the asset owner, we call that investor. And they do have different kind of needs, and they're also cross-border as well. We probably only have around less than 50% of the investors from Asia, and the other more than 50% is actually outside Asia. So that kind of global kind of capital connections, payment-wise in the future, probably we could need to work with that as well. And also in the needs of the insurance in the future, because a lot of investors on the more wealth management side, they don't really just need to invest in other alternative zones, but they also have the needs to invest in so-called the more conventional kind of in financial product and financial services. And I do agree with Fred that sometimes it's the kind of platform service where you basically empower each other. I think this sort of aspect will be the area that we want to explore further. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. With that, that will conclude our session. Again, thank you, Fred, Angie, and Tim for joining us.
Thank you.
And thank you for the audience online.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you, William, and as panelists. It was great to hear from Angie Lin and Timothy Chen, as well as from Fred Lau at Airstar Bank. We heard, I think that doing a startup is tough, but when you're involved with an ecosystem and a set of partners, from capital to networking to sharing expertise and to finding ways to leverage each other's data and expertise, it creates, it opens a lot of doors that you don't have in the traditional analog world of doing business. And also we heard that despite the problems and the challenges of COVID-19, which of course has been a terrible affliction for society, but businesses, particularly digital businesses, are finding ways to turn this disadvantage into advantage and into services that can help their customers grow and thrive despite challenging business conditions overall. So with that, I would like to introduce the final speaker of today's Startup Bootcamp. Timothy Tong is chairman of AMTD Foundation. AMTD Foundation, he'll tell you about it, but it's basically the giving arm of the AMT group. It was founded by Calvin Choi, and Timothy is now running that. So Timothy, please welcome and talk about AMTD Foundation and close out today's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, let me first thank Hong Kong Trade Development Council for organizing today's event despite the situation regarding COVID-19. They have managed to connect all of us. And I also want to thank the speakers and the panelists for their sharing. I think we learned quite a bit from them. I think it is quite obvious that under the leadership of the chairman and CEO of AMTD, Mr. Calvin Choi, AMTD is absolutely committed to using technologies, and in particular, digital technology, to create opportunities and support entrepreneurs like you. You've heard from Michelle earlier that how extensively AMTD has been developing a portfolio of digital platforms to serve you. That includes creating a digital bank, a virtual bank, under the leadership of Fred Lau. And also, we are very much concerned with the nurturing of talents. We've sponsored a FinTech center at the Hong Kong Polytechnic University, and that center has actually spawned the first doctoral program in FinTech in Hong Kong. And the center also supports projects to push the envelope of knowledge in FinTech forward. And a moment ago, you also heard from two entrepreneurs, Angie and Tim, how they are partnering with AMTD. And I invite you to do the same, to connect with us. We have created a spider network, an AMTD spider net, and that connects funders, users, entrepreneurs, and I invite you to join that network as well. In a moment, there will be a feedback form shown on the screen on which there is a QR code. Just by scanning the code, you'll be able to contact us and connect with us, and I invite you to do so. So I want to thank all the participants and you for connecting with us today, and I wish you all the success in your entrepreneurial endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Tong and all speakers. That was an insightful and fruitful session for our startup audience. Coming to the end of this session, please feel free to click on the link below the event description to send us your feedback. We would love to hear from you. We hope you enjoy and take the most from the event for developing your entrepreneurial journey. Thank you.